Hey there, it's Tessa with Hip Over 50. Dual citizen, yeah, American accent, but I was born here in England, moved back after living in Canada and the US most of my life. So discovering all the nooks and crannies about life here so that maybe it can help you if you're thinking of coming back or for an extended visit. So today I'm going to talk to you about something that we talk about a lot here in England or in the UK is weather. And whether or not we are going to be affected by climate change. So we've all heard the news, the world is getting warmer by the minute. And is that going to affect us? Are we headed for the days of wine and roses here, or perhaps something a little more sinister? Well, let's find out. How are we going to be affected by global warming? In the past 60 years, our average temperatures have gone up about 2 degrees, from 40 to 42 Fahrenheit, or 4.79 to 5.53 Celsius. And the high has gone up from 53 to 55 Fahrenheit. So yeah, just 2 degrees, but those 2 degrees apparently make a lot of difference. And as you can tell, our temperature range between lows and highs is pretty narrow here. We have definitely got a maritime climate. Be forgiven for wondering if these warming predictions are reliable, because let's face it, this June that we just had was downright chilly. We had a mean temperature of 14 Celsius, and that's in England. In other parts of the UK, it was actually colder. So one thing we do know is that we've had record amount of rain. I mean, in the past 18 months, yes, epic amounts of rain. We've gone from an annual average of about 154 days a year to up to 159. Now that may not sound like a lot, but those extra 5 days is a heck of a lot of rain. It's plus a change, right? But let's say we're getting milder and wetter. What does it all mean? According to the scientific experts, I know they're always chiming in, but I found this article in the Times. I actually bookmarked it last year and I thought it was kind of intriguing and I would follow up on it for you. They're saying that by 2050, we could have hotter, drier summers and wetter, milder winters. In other words, the patterns that we've already been experiencing since about 2010 are just set to increase. Wetter, milder winters, tick. I get it. We've already got those. But hotter, drier summers? I'll believe it when I see it. Because if this pattern comes to pass, more of us will be running out to John Lewis to buy an air conditioner. Right now, only about 5% of us have AC. Our summer sporting season might be extended if we have longer summers. Cricket in October, anyone? Our native wine industry is expected to grow in leaps and bounds, as I think other crops would too, due to this temperate climate. But the big tipping point that I'm talking about today is that all those lovely tourists that are now flocking to Southern Europe and the Med will make a U-turn to head to our fair shores to cool off. I mean, we already know that Americans love to visit us. 4.6 million came in 2022 alone. And I expect that number will only increase because guess what, folks? 48% of Americans now have a passport. Yeah, but they could soon be joined by our neighbors to the south. You'd have to be on the moon not to see how hot it is getting in the Med. I mean, blistering hot temperatures in countries like Spain, Italy, Greece, and of course the US as well. Last year, Valencia recorded a high of 46.8. That's 116 degrees Fahrenheit. That's pretty hot. Greece has recorded an all-time high of 48 centigrade. Sicily last August recorded 48.8. Ouch. That is not far off Sin City's high. Las Vegas came in at 117 degrees Fahrenheit or 47 Celsius. Ooh, that is hot. So those experts are now predicting that more of those tourists that used to go to the Southern Med and Southern Europe will now come to the UK because it's just getting too hot there. Already some people are canceling their summer plans, or people are planning on traveling in shoulder seasons to avoid, lining up at the Coliseum and then passing out from the heat. Apparently temps only have to go up 1 extra centigrade here in the UK, and we book an additional 45,000 rooms. So we are all about getting out there, enjoying that great British summer. But that may become kind of a universal concept. And we may actually even have more cruise ships docking here in our harbors. So that's the downside to hotter summers and wetter winters. Just more people, the air conditioning. We're already experiencing, like I said, wet and mild winters. I've only seen like a dusting of snow since I've moved here, other than the beast from the east. just barely nothing at all. And that's, of course, I'm in the south. I'm sure up north they get a little bit more, but I think everybody would agree snowfall is down. However, our rain is keeping right up there, and it is due to rise, which increases the risk of flooding, which isn't so great. Our rainfall has actually gone from around 1,000 millimeters a year to 1,400 millimeters per year. That is 39 inches up to 55 inches we're now getting. Yes, that is a lot of rain. The U.S., we always look to Seattle and the Pacific Northwest as being one of those places that is considered very rainy in the continent, but they just get 37 inches. So we are very competitive when it comes to our rainfall. Hotter temperatures means our train networks might not run very well because those tracks can only take up to 27 degrees centigrade before they start to buckle. So the trains have to slow down. So your visit down to Cornwall may go off the rails if that's the case. As somebody who's lived in hot climates like Texas and Florida, I'm used to the heat, but it doesn't go down well here if it lasts for more than a few days. Central aircon, even in London here, is hit and miss. I was in London in a heat wave last September, and massive booths in Piccadilly didn't have any air conditioning. It could become a problem. Of course, I lived in Boston, in the 70s and 80s, and nobody had air conditioning. You didn't need it. That was New England. We didn't need it. You didn't even have it in your car. But now, they just had a big heat wave last couple of weeks. It hit 100 degrees in Maine, which is unheard of. So everybody's going to be looking for that air conditioning if this continues. Of course, I think we have natural air conditioning here most of the year. But we couldn't get that hot, could we? After all, we're still an island or a nation surrounded by water in the far northern hemisphere. We've got the Arctic is not that far away. It's just as influential as the Gulf Stream. And to be honest, this past year feels colder and wetter than normal. I wouldn't bet on Bognor Regis becoming the new Costa del Sol anytime soon. But the bright side to all of this, well, English wine production has been booming, especially in the southern counties of Sussex and Kent, where they've been growing wine for quite a while now, but they are producing fabulous sparkling wines from grapes that thrive in this temperate climate. In fact, southern England now has a champagne-like climate that Champagne in France used to have in the 20th century. Experts have even said our Pinot Noir is starting to taste the way French wines did 20 years ago in the Burgundy region. So that is definitely a silver lining if you're an oenophile or if you just like your grape. Even Yorkshire and Scotland are getting in on the wine boom. We know the Romans grew grapes here in the 1st to 5th centuries when they were occupying Britain. They found a way to take advantage of stone walls and south-facing slopes to kind of maximize the growing season that we had then. And they even planted vineyards as far north as Northamptonshire. While the Romans claimed our climate was wretched, they didn't like our clouds, they were used to sunshine, there was actually what's called the Roman warm period during that time, and it was unusually warm weather in Europe. That probably helped the wine habit a little bit. We're having our own warm period here in the 21st century because they're considering our growing season is actually a month longer now than it was in the 70s and 80s. So that tells you something is changing, right? Of course, our growing season is at the mercy of the jet stream, the Gulf Stream, and the Greenland currents, as we are. The currents are heating up, though. The North Atlantic is now warmer than any time on record. 2 degrees Fahrenheit. There's that 2 degrees again. It's hotter than average, so it's no surprise we're getting more of the wet stuff because air holds more water when it's warmer. Hotter, drier, okay. What about sunnier? Well, because that doesn't look like it's going to change. We are known for our cloud cover here. We've actually clocked in about 4 to 4.5 hours of sunlight daily on average since the turn of the century. And there's no sign that that's going to change anytime soon, unfortunately. Perhaps we should take our cue from the lovely rose, my favorite. Even though it prefers 6 hours or more of sunlight, it's managed to thrive here. It's adapted. I'm not the only one who's noticed that our wildflowers and our gardens have just kind of gone bonkers during all this warm, wet period that we've been having. So perhaps we can too. Well, not go bonkers, but thrive. Either way, don't be surprised if tourists from the Europe, US, and even the Far East start coming here in a major way to cool off in the near future. Because even if we're getting warmer, We've got a long way to go before we get hot. So what do you think? Are we going to be able to acclimatize ourselves to this new normal? Let me know what you think in the comments. Can we take the heat? I'll leave you with these tips. Buy stocks in wellies, wine, and window air conditioners. So there you go. I hope you enjoyed this little video. I look forward to your comments and suggestions. And meanwhile, stay dry, stay warm, and take care of yourself. See you soon.